Hello and welcome to News Bulletin reaching you from the studio of CBATV. My name is Ajara Ahmed Tijani. Now, the headlines. Ethiopia calls on Somaliland business tycoons to invest in Ethiopia. Somalia federal government and its member state holds meeting over elections. Somalia breaks silence on the US airstrike in Bay region. Sudan, Eritrea discuss refugees, regional issues. Gambia discovers 3 tons of cocaine in salt shipment. Now the news in full. In a meeting between Somaliland and Ethiopia officials in Hargeisa, Ethiopia government has called on Somaliland business tycoons to invest in Ethiopia. The two countries have close diplomatic relations and trade relations for the past decades.
runtii anagu wafdiyayaan soo boqonnay caasimadda Somaliland.
The Minister of Investment of the Somali state of Ethiopia, Abdisalam Yusuf, and his delegation held talks with his counterpart of Somaliland, Mohammed Ahmed Awad, to boost trade relations between the two countries. The Ethiopian delegation inaugurated business opportunities for the Somaliland entrepreneurs. Somaliland says they had a fruitful meeting with the Somali regional state of Ethiopia delegation and will have a second phase of this meeting in Ethiopia. Although the sides have not disclosed the exact date the meeting will happen. The Minister of Investment of the Somali state of Ethiopia, Abdisalam Yusuf, has said he traveled to Hargeisa to satisfy Somaliland entrepreneurs to invest in Ethiopia.
We came here to Hargeisa, Somaliland for a working visit. We appreciate Somaliland officials for their warm welcoming. Though it was a short trip, our major agenda was to convince Somaliland business tycoons and entrepreneurs to invest in Ethiopia, which is a group.
Ethiopia fursadaha ka jira deegaanka Soomaalida arrimaha u baahan inay hantilayaasha Somaliland ay ka hawlgalaan ama say u maalgashan lahaayeen dawladda deegaanka Soomaalida.
Mohammed Ahmed Awad, the Somaliland Minister of Investment, confirmed that the Ethiopian delegation invited them for a key conference which is expected to take place in the Somali state of Ethiopia.
We are happy to have this delegation in here and for the invitation they extended for us to witness a key conference which is expected to take place in their region very soon, which will be our diplomatic gate to African nations.
The two countries have had close diplomatic and trade relations for the past decades. Ethiopia is one of the few countries to have an embassy in Somaliland.
The federal government of Somalia and the federal member states have once again held meetings amid political tensions over the upcoming elections. The two sides want to find a lasting solution to their political disagreement.
In Mogadishu, there are separate meetings between the federal leaders and its member states amid political tension in the country. Finding a lasting solution for the political disagreements between the federal government of Somalia and the member states is the most time every Somali politician spends on his effort. All they want is to resolve political challenges in the upcoming parliamentary and presidential election in 2021, which has been delayed several times. Reliable sources reveal that the two sides have agreed on to hold other key conferences to avoid election delay. Abdi Qorqor, the leader of Galmudug state of Somalia and the speaker of the Somalia upper house, Mohammed Hashi, who seems to be allies, have affirmed that they will bring together the politically divided politicians. The leader of Galmudug, who has enough experience on Dusamereb talks, is still putting in more energy to resolve the political disputes between the federal government and state leaders due to the upcoming elections.
Still in Somalia, the federal government of Somalia has commented on a U.S. airstrike in Bay region of southern Somalia. The government said the airstrike targeted senior Al-Shabaab members, where at least 5 members of its fighters were killed.
Somalia government has spoken about the recent U.S. airstrike conducted by AFRICOM in Pai region of southwest state of Somalia. According to the Ministry of Information, the airstrike targeted Al-Shabaab fighters who were in Sahawene in Pai region. At least 5 senior Al-Shabaab fighters were killed in the airstrike, including a man who was specifically targeted, but the federal government has not revealed their names. Al-Shabaab has neither confirmed nor denied the claim of the government. Last week, 2 airstrikes killed 3 Al-Shabaab fighters and destroyed 6 buildings in their compound. In December, President Donald Trump ordered the removal of about 800 troops from Somalia, a move expected to be complete when President-elect Joe Biden is inaugurated later this month. At the end of December, the USS Nimitz, a strike group, pulled into position near Somalia last week to protect the troop withdrawal.
Away from Somalia, the East African nations of Sudan and Eritrea on Friday agreed to continue cooperation on international and regional issues. The Foreign Minister Omar Kamaruddin says a visit to neighboring East African nation Eritrea was successful.
The East African nations of Sudan and Eritrea on Friday agreed to continue cooperation on international and regional issues. The Foreign Minister Omar Gamar Eden says visit to neighboring East African nation Eritrea successful. According to the official Sudanese news agency SUNA, Foreign Minister Omar Gamar Eden, upon returning from Eritrea, said talks with Eritrean President Afewerki dealt with issues relating to the regional situation, volatile borders, and displaced people and refugees due to violence in neighboring Ethiopia. Describing the visit to Eritrea as successful, Gamar Eden said the 2 sides exchanged views on strategic issues between the 2 countries as well as the region, according to SUNA. In December 2020, Sudan took control of its entire border with Ethiopia. For 26 years, Ethiopian gangs have been accused of seizing Sudanese farmers' lands in the border region of Al-Fashqa after expelling them by force. Sudan also accuses the Ethiopian army of supporting these gangs, something Addis Ababa denies.
And now to Uganda. On 14th January, Ugandans go to the polls in what is likely to be the closest election the country has ever had. Their unusual choice embattled incumbent Yoweri Museveni or pop star turned politician Robert Chagulanyi, better known by his stage name Bobby Wine.
Yoweri Museveni is Africa's 3rd longest ruling leader. He's a political chameleon, once a revolutionary. He has posed as both a liberal, progressive and a nationalist conservative while in office. The 3.5 decades of Museveni's administration are difficult to describe in a sentence or two. President Museveni, 76 years of age, has ruled Uganda for 60% of its post-independence period and has no intention of stepping down soon. Kyagulanyi is such a dangerous challenger because his ego prevents him from backing down. Even when the majority of his citizens were born in the 21st century, Museveni himself still views the world the way he did in the 1980s. I am not your servant. The aging autocrat complained at a recent National Liberation Day holiday that he established to celebrate his victory in the Ugandan Bush War over 6 years of brutal guerrilla fighting. I'm just a freedom fighter fighting for myself or my beliefs, he quoted. Former Ugandan dictator Idi Amin infamously awarded himself the title His Excellency President for Life, Lord of all beasts of the earth and fishes of the seas and conqueror of the British Empire in Africa and Uganda in particular. While Museveni's dictates are less comical, he has not strayed far from Uganda's tradition of flagrant outcry. In 2005, Museveni scrapped presidential term so he can stand for a 3rd term in 2006. In 2017, he abolished the presidential age limit so he could stand again in 2021. A few days before voting to abolish age limits, each Ugandan member of the parliament received a payment of 29 million Ugandan shillings, about $5,800 officially, so that they could consult. There are only 2 times in history that Ugandan MPs have been paid to consult on their constituents on bill. The other was 2005 bill that abolished term limits.
Still in Uganda, security chiefs in Uganda have warned members of the public not to hang around polling stations to cause violence after voting. The country heads to the polls next week following a campaign session that has been dominated by violence, loss of life, and arrest of the opposition, their supporters, and as well journalists.
Security chiefs in Uganda have warned members of the public not to hang around polling stations to cause violence after voting. The country heads to the polls next week following a campaign season that has been dominated by violence, loss of life, and arrest of the opposition, their supporters, and as well as journalists. At a joint security briefing, Police Chief Martin Ochola warned that anyone who causes trouble at the polling stations will regret why they were born.
It is not that we are targeting the media, no. We are trying to protect your lives. We are telling you there's a danger there. For you insisting you must go where there's a danger. Yes, we shall beat you for your own sake. To help you understand that you don't go there. We shall use reasonable force to ensure that you don't go where there's a risk.
The comment come as the opposition called on voters to stay after casting their votes and overlook ballot counting as they fear election fraud. Ochola claimed that the call by the opposition is against the Electoral Commission guidelines and there is no evidence of voter fraud. So far in the election campaigns in Uganda, journalists have been arrested, beaten, and had their equipment confiscated or destroyed by the police. However, the police chief, Mr. Ochola, justified the violence in saying that journalists are being beaten to restrain them from going where there is danger. He said further that he would not apologize for police actions.
I have no apology. Actually, you are saying, is the police apologizing for mishandling journalists? My answer is, I'm very sorry, excuse me, we shall not apologize. But we shall continue helping you.
The election pit candidate against President Museveni, who has been in power for 35 years. The popular musician, who is the youngest presidential candidate in the forthcoming election, Bobby Wine, remains the biggest threat to the ruling party. Wine has been at loggerheads with the government since he expressed its intention to bring to an end the long-running rule of 76-year-old President Yoweri Museveni. Kamel Sadiq reporting for CBATV.
Burundi will close its land and water borders starting Monday, and all passengers passing through the Bujumbura airport will be escorted by police, the government said on Friday, as COVID-19 cases surge again in part of the African continent.
Burundi will close its land and water borders starting Monday, and all passengers passing through the Bujumbura airport will be escorted by police, the government said Friday, as COVID-19 cases surge again in parts of the African continent. This is the second time the East African nation has closed its borders to help contain the spread of the virus. Early in the pandemic, the administration of the late President Pierre Nkurunziza faced criticism for not taking the coronavirus seriously, but the new president Evariste Ndayishimiye, shortly after taking office in June, called COVID-19 the country's worst enemy. The mass screen the president announced in July will be launched again for 30 days. The committee in charge of fighting the virus said, under the new measures, people arriving in Burundi must quarantine for 7 days, and hotels hosting people in quarantine must receive no other clients. People who violate the measures will pay fines. In a public address at the end of December, the president warned that those who discarded pandemic measures will be considered as people bringing weapons to kill Burundians. Burundi has 885 confirmed virus cases, including 2 deaths, and it has carried out over 90,000 tests for the virus. Sylvain Habanabakize, spokesman for a Burundian Patients' Rights Association, urged the government to avoid any injustice when applying these measures.
Now to West Africa, France is determined to continue to accompany Burkina Faso, which has been plagued by an unprecedented increase in violence with a jihadist majority for more than 5 years. French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian said on Friday in Ouagadougou.
France is determined to continue to accompany Burkina Faso in the field of security and its economic and social development policy, Le Drian said after a long discussion with Burkina Faso President Roch-Marc Christian Kabore. The minister said he was in Ouagadougou for a support visit after the re-election in November of President Kabore, who is beginning his second term. Burkina Faso is, along with Mali and Niger, one of the countries most affected by jihadism and violence in a conflict in the Sahel that has continued to spread since it began in 2012 in northern Mali. At the beginning of 2020, following a series of deadly attacks against military camps of the three countries in the region known as the Three Borders between Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, France and a summit is planned in N'Djamena, in Chad in February. France has been present in the Sahel since 2013. It currently has 5,100 troops engaged, but is currently examining this level of commitment. At the end of December, 5 French soldiers died in an explosion of 2 artisanal mines a few days apart, bringing to 50 the number of French soldiers killed in the region.
Law enforcement officers in Gambia discovered nearly 3 tons of cocaine in a salt shipment from Ecuador, its drug agency said on Friday, in a tiny West African country's largest ever seizure.
Officers searched a container in the port of capital Banjul on Thursday found 118 bags of illegal white powder, which were labeled as industrial salt according to a statement from the Gambia Drug Law Enforcement Agency. The container was a part of the consignment of 4 containers originated from the Ecuadorian port of Guayaquil. Lamin Gassama, DLEAGC's intelligence director, told AFP that 2.9 tons represented the largest ever drug hauls in the Gambia, a poor nation of some 2 million people and the smallest on the mainland Africa. He added that the seizure was worth approximately $88.5 million. In a statement, the Gambia's drug agency said that the local law enforcement is searching for consignment owners of a 70-year-old French national named Banta Keita. West Africa is an important transit region for cocaine trafficked from South America into Europe, according to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. Seizure of the narcotics across the African continent rose from 1.2 tons in 2015 to 5.6 in 2018, the agency said in a report in June.
And now from Cameroon, not less than 14 people have so far been reported to have been killed in an attack believed to be carried out by Boko Haram insurgents in northern Cameroon.
Not less than 14 people have so far been reported to have been killed in an attack believed to be carried out by Boko Haram insurgents in northern Cameroon. The reign of terror by the insurgents took place in the town of Masogo in Cameroon's far north region. The group in recent days have staged several attacks in the same region despite the government's claims of success against them. A suicide bomber who hid among the fleeing civilians is reported to have detonated explosives, killing 11 people on the spot before gunmen shot dead 3 others and injured many. The mayor of Masogo, Bokar Mejewe, disclosed that many residents of the area attacked by Boko Haram started fleeing to a nearby forest as soon as they heard that the insurgents were approaching the town. This, he said, helped in reducing the number of casualties to a considerable amount. Based in Nigeria, near the Cameroonian border, Boko Haram terrorists regularly attack civilians and military posts in northern Cameroon. Boko Haram launched a bloody insurgency in 2009 in northeastern Nigeria, but later spread its atrocities to neighboring Niger, Chad, and Cameroon, prompting a military response. According to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, more than 30,000 people have been killed and nearly 3 million displaced in a decade of Boko Haram's terrorist activities in Nigeria. The United Nations also said violence committed by Boko Haram has affected some 26 million people in the Lake Chad region and displaced 2.6.
And in Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, and other prominent Nigerians have expressed their willingness to be among the first set of Nigerians to receive COVID-19 vaccine on live television in order to encourage Nigerians to accept the vaccines nationwide.
We have signed up with the World Health Organization and Gavi for access to vaccines immediately they are available. But you know that these vaccines are new. They're just on the market, and the producers are, first of all, not giving any indemnity. The big countries where these vaccines are produced, where they are manufactured, are of course giving themselves the priority to serve themselves, serve their own citizens first, And we hope that the pressure from the World Health Organization and Gavi will be able to get a reserve for other countries who themselves are not manufacturing.
President Muhammadu Buhari, Vice President Yomi Osinbajo, and other prominent Nigerians have expressed their willingness to be among the first set of Nigerians to receive the COVID-19 vaccine on live television in order to encourage Nigerians to accept the vaccine nationwide. Faisal Shuaib, the Executive Director of National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, disclosed this at the Presidential Task Force briefing on COVID-19. CBATV earlier reported that Nigeria is expected to secure about 42 million COVID-19 vaccines to cover 1/5 of its population through the global COVAX scheme. The initial vaccines would come as part of Nigeria's plan to vaccinate 40% of the population in 2021 and another 30% in 2022, with 100,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine arriving by the end of January 2021. According to Mr. Shuaibu, President Muhammadu Buhari, Vice President Yomi Osinbajo, and other prominent Nigerians are willing to be among the first set of Nigerians to receive the vaccine on live television to demonstrate that the vaccine is safe. However, there are fears that many may not accept the vaccine due to doubts of safety, religious beliefs, among other factors. The Nigerian government is doing this to emulate other previous leaders who have received the vaccine live on television in order to take away the fears that their citizens may have against the coronavirus vaccine. The US President-elect Joe Biden in December 2020 received a COVID-19 vaccine on live television in a demonstration intended to encourage Americans to receive shots of their own when they could. Also, Saudi Arabia's King Salman bin Abdulaziz received the first dose of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine, becoming one of the prominent leaders in the Middle East to be inoculated. The federal government of Nigeria says the country is ready to embark on mass vaccination and has set a condition that states must fulfill before releasing the vaccines.
A report from World of Sports. Abdulaziz Guled reports that Wolverhampton Wanderers beat Crystal Palace to reach the FA Cup 4th round with a special goal from a special player.
Wolverhampton Wanderers beat Crystal Palace to reach the FA Cup 4th round with a special win from a special player. Adama Traore's scorching left foot drive was decisive for the host against a much-changed Palace side. Prior to his strike from the edge of the box, the Spain winger had not scored for Wolves since February 2020. On an evening when the finishing was otherwise lacking in quality, the Wolves manager appeared to turn and say wow to his bench following Traore's sparkling effort. The 24-year-old cut in from the right and lashed a powerful shot past keeper Jack Butland. Bundesliga leaders Bayern Munich blew a 2-0 lead to lose to Borussia Mönchengladbach, just their 4th defeat in Hansi Flick's 60-game reign. A Robert Lewandowski penalty and a 20-yard Leon Goretzka effort seemed to put the champions in control, but Jonas Hofmann got Gladbach back with 2 finishes from last standard passes. Ferrer Neuhaus then smashed home a brilliant winner 3 minutes after the break for the 7th-placed hosts. 2 of Flick's 4 losses in treble-winning 14 months as Bayern boss have come against Gladbach. Bayern remained top of the German top flight, but RB Leipzig could overtake them with a victory over 4th-place Borussia Dortmund on Saturday. Liverpool reached the FA Cup 4th round with a comfortable victory over COVID-19-affected Aston Villa, but it took until the second half to get on top of a home side made up of academy players with no first-team experience. A coronavirus outbreak at the training ground this week meant no first-team players were available for Villa, with the club fielding a starting 11 composed of under-23 players and 4 from the under-18s. But despite conceding from a 4th minute when Sadio Mane headed in, they remained resolute in defence for the rest of the half and then stunned the visitors when a 17-year-old Louis Barry equalised. The England under-17 striker, born just a few miles from Villa Park, signed for club last January for more than £800,000, having had a spell with Barcelona's academy. His composed finish 4 minutes from the break was as assured as would be expected from Lionel Messi. Unfortunately for Villa, the youngsters tired and the Red exerted more pressure in the second half, scoring 3 goals in 5 minutes spell after the break. Jorginho Wijnaldum stroked in Liverpool's second on the hour mark before Mane looped in a header and Mohamed Salah struck home with a low finish from inside the area.
With that report, we've come to the end of news from CBATV, the voice of East Africa and beyond. Watch out for more reports and more news from this channel. My name is Ajara Ahmed Tijani. Bye for now.